Yo, what's up guys? d-cellgaming here, back with some final gear. And today I'm going to be talking about Cynthia and Mirabelle. I'm going to go over their skill kits and break them down, give my thoughts on them to try to help you guys decide whether they are worth summoning for or not. Let's not delay and get right into it. Alright guys, and before I get started, I do want to make a couple disclaimers. And the first one is, do be careful about how you're spending your crystals, because I do believe Lillian is going to be right around the corner. I know I said this at the Nova and the Alexa banner, but I do believe we're going to be getting her pretty soon. And the reason why I keep iterating this over and over is that you're going to need about 45 to 50,000 crystals to get everything you need for Lillian. So if you're planning on getting Lillian, definitely be careful how you spend your crystals, okay? And the second thing I want to talk about is I'm going to be changing the format of my review videos a little bit. Instead of reading everything out and then breaking them down, I'm just going to kind of skim and break down the skills as I go about. And the reason why I'm going to be doing this is to try to get you the most information in the shortest amount of time. Now do let me know in the comments down below if you like this new format better, if you prefer me to read the skills and then break it down. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. Alrighty, so moving on into the game, we're gonna go ahead and pull up the recruitment menu and we're gonna talk about Mirabelle first. Okay, so right off the bat, she is a sniper, so she has the sniper weapon specialist, so she gets 10% for sniper rifles, and she is a light part specialist, so she gets 10% to her evasion. If you're gonna look down at her mech, I think her SD models, like I think the pilot model is really good, and I think the custom mech model is pretty bland. I don't like it very much, to be honest. Her mech activation, the 2 effect is going to be increased damage, and then the 4 effect is crit strike. She has a magazine capacity of 6 rounds a second and the reload time of 1.43. Her attack speed is at 1.28 times a second, so not bad for a sniper pilot. Starting with her high gear is going to hit for a lot of damage. It's 30% damage, so it's going to hit pretty hard, and if the skill kills the enemy, it has a 100% chance to cause extinction. Now extinction, if you're familiar with a game like Epic 7, you kind of know what extinction does. It will cause immediate death, it negates any skills or any chips that they have equipped, and the target cannot be resurrected. So this is very clearly designed for PvP. Now her skill 2 is going to boost her damage by 30% and her crit chance by 15%. So again, just kind of an overall damage buff. These are usually what these passives are. The first and second passives are usually like overall damage increases, so nothing special there. Moving on to her skill 3. Her skill 3 causes her standard attacks to have a 75% chance to boost her damage by 30% for 15 seconds, and this can be refreshed. And it also gives her standard attacks a 75% chance to recover 300 energy, and that can trigger once every 2 seconds. So we can see that her skill 3 is designed to feed into her high gear and let her push out the high gear more often. And I didn't mention this, but her high gear only costs 6,000 energy, so it's not like super expensive, but it's also not super cheap either. But with getting 300 energy every 2 seconds, possibly, because it is a 75% chance, so you can see how she can be really good in PvP, because she's going to be able to do that high gear and cause extinction. Her skill 4 will boost her crit damage by 40% damage across the board, so that's a really good boost in damage. Her standard attacks, when they crit, has a 25% chance to reduce the target's attack by 50% for 5 seconds. It can't be stacked and only refreshed. However, she can only trigger the inhibited state, which is what this debuff is called, once every 10 seconds. So do keep in mind that she can't keep this up indefinitely. There'll have to be another person on the battle that can do the inhibited debuff in order to keep this chain going. And her talent has a 50, 65, and 80% chance to deal 1.5, 2, or 3 times damage to all of her attacks. So this is really good once you get her fully talented out, because her talent will make her high gear do a lot of single target damage. So overall, what are my thoughts on Mirabelle? Well, I think Mirabelle is clearly designed for PvP, right? She's going to be a good unit to have if you're looking forward towards the future PvP modes, ones that we don't have in the game right now. I don't see much use for her outside of PvP. While yes, her talent does apply to all damage that she deals, it's very clearly designed to make her do insta-kill damage for her high gear in PvP. And she's also able to feed herself energy with one of her passives, so she can directly start chaining into the high gears. So once you have her talented to level 8, she can really be a threat in PvP, because once she kills somebody with a high gear, they can't be resurrected. They're just extinct. They're gone. Another thing that makes her good for PvP is she can lower the damage that the enemies deal. So a 50% damage like debuff to enemies is huge. Now do keep in mind she can't refresh this indefinitely. She can only have it applied at maximum half of the time every 10 seconds, right? So it can be triggered every 10 seconds, but it only lasts for 5 seconds. So there's only about at maximum, remember, is only a 25% chance for it to trigger. So even at the maximum chance, it's still only a 50% uptime. So it can come in clutch, but you can't count on it in every fight. So I think clearly this unit was made with PvP in mind, and I think that's where she's going to perform the best. Now, a side note for Mirabelle, a lot of the people in the community, and I'm seeing in other servers, people are saying that her weapon is a very high energy recharge rate. I think it has the highest recharge rate in the game. So it might be worth just summoning for Mirabelle a couple times just to buy the weapon, so you can then put that weapon on Solveig, because Solveig with a high energy weapon is just going to be crazy, right? All right, and let's go ahead and move on to Cynthia and see what she's all about. So we can see that Cynthia is a bomber and she is ranged, so ranged weapons give her 10% damage, and she has heavy part spec, which means she will get 10% more HP. Now, her custom mech looks awesome. I think it's one of the coolest ones in the game, and her pilot model is pretty good as well. I do think the pilot model for Mirabelle is better, but I think the custom mech model for Cynthia is way better in my opinion. Looking at the custom mech bonuses that she gets, she's going to have increased mech damage, she's going to have increased critical strike chance for the 4 effect, and then the final activation effect will be 10% critical strike damage. Now, she has a magazine capacity of 6 rounds, she has a reload time of 0.33 seconds, and an attack speed of 2.27 attacks per second. So we can see that she attacks pretty quickly, and she's going to reload pretty quickly as well. Starting with Cynthia's high gear, it does 1,360% damage and will cause motor collision debuff to the enemies that it hits. Now, what the motor collision does is it's a crowd control effect that makes them unable to move for 3 seconds, and it will also buff the entire team with 10% crit chance and 15% crit damage for 8 seconds. So right away we can see this is another unit geared for PvP, as the high gear brings with it not only a buff for the teammates, but it's going to bring crowd controlling effects to the enemy team. So moving on to her first passive, the skill number 2. When Cynthia hits a target in motor collision, she has an increased accuracy of 30%, and she will deal 2 times damage, and this applies to all of her attacks. So this is a really good damage boost for her, and we're gonna see how she feeds into the crowd controlling effects later, but just know that her skill 2 is a big deal because it's gonna allow her to push out a lot of damage. Her skill 3 will give her 30% more crit chance, which is massive, and give her a little bit more crit damage, which is always good in a damage dealing unit. Now, her skill 4 is going to increase her in overall damage by 30%, and it's also going to make her standard attacks, when they crit, it's gonna buff her into what's called like the Judgment Star effect, and what this is going to do is restore her energy by 10% every 2 seconds for 6 seconds, and then it's going to make all of the enemies subjected to the motor collision state. It doesn't stack, but this can be refreshed. Now we can see that this directly feeds into her skill 2 and her high gear, as it allows more enemies to be affected by the motor collision, and it gives her more windows to get that 2 times extra damage. So this feeds also into her talent. What Cynthia's talent is allows her normal attacks against bosses to deal 0.5, 0.75, or 1 times additional damage. So we can see if she's doing 2x damage from a motor collision and she's going to get her talent proc and all these things, we can see that Cynthia has a pretty good damage output potential. But what are my overall thoughts on Cynthia? Well, I think Cynthia is, again, geared more towards PvP. However, I do think she has more PvE applications than Mirabelle does. She will provide crowd controlling effects, which is huge in PvP. She's going to lock down enemies in place and they can't move. If they can't move, it will allow you to manually position your units behind them to where they can't attack your unit. So this is a really good unit to have in PvP. What I mentioned before, she has a little bit more applications in PvE. Why is that? It's because, one, she has extra burst damage against bosses, so she's gonna have more applications in those timed PvE modes. Because PvE, you need to do more damage in a short amount of time. So she has a much higher attack speed than Mirabelle at 2 seconds, a little more than 2 seconds. And she's going to do extra damage to bosses, which makes her helps make her a little bit more of a boss killer, so to speak. So this kind of makes her a little bit more viable in PvE than Mirabelle. Now, whether she's more effective in PvP than Mirabelle or not, it's kind of to be seen. I think both have their applications in PvP. One's going to provide extinction and one's going to provide crowd control. In my opinion, I think crowd control is a little bit stronger than the extinction, because you can always crowd control and pin somebody in place, and then eventually they're going to die anyway, even if they're resurrected. Overall, I think Cynthia is the more well-rounded unit. I think she's going to be better in PvE, and she has very useful applications in PvP. I also think she has the added benefit of having one of the coolest looking custom mechs in the game. So what are my thoughts on summoning for Cynthia or Mirabelle? I think it might be worth summoning on Mirabelle just a little bit, just to get that weapon for Solveig. Now that's up to you, of course, because you will have to sacrifice a little bit of crystals for that, and I think the Lead Rain shotgun or Lee's SMG are both very good weapons for Solveig, so you don't necessarily need it. But if you do want to optimize Solveig, it might be worth it just for the weapon alone. Both units are very good for PvP. I think both has an application. I think either one of them will be scary to go against in PvP, because one can extinct you and do large amounts of single target damage, and one can lock you in place and provide crowd control. So I think both are very much worth it in that sense. If I had to pick one or the other, I would think I would go for Cynthia over Mirabelle, because I just think Cynthia has more applications and she has more game modes that she can be useful in. However, I could see, like, I am probably more tempted to summon for Mirabelle just for that high damaging extinction attack that she can bring to the table. That seems really powerful, but overall I think Cynthia will take the cake here. But as always, guys, it's summon for waifu over anything, right? So if you like them, definitely summon for them. I don't think either one of them are bad units, and I think they have their uses. I just think Mirabelle is a little more niche than Cynthia will be. So if you're gonna summon for one, do keep that in mind. But hey guys, that's just my opinions on things. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about these units? Do you think they're great? Do you think they suck? Do you think I missed the mark? Do you think I was right on the mark? Let me know. If you've made it this far in the video and you found it helpful or liked it for any reason, consider liking and subscribing to the channel for more future content like this, as that will help push me further into YouTube's algorithm. Links down below to all of my social media, including Discord, if you want to join our community and interact with us or ask me any questions outside of YouTube. I'm active there every day. But hey guys, that's gonna be it. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.